Welcome to the show. It's Tuesday. It's IB Nation Sports Talk. We're up. We're rolling.
Get over where you belong.
I don't know which side of the screen I'm on.
Get over where you belong.
Well, along with Vince D'Addario, Sean Stiers. Hope you're having a good one. It's been a crazy fast day.
Oh, so true.
Oh, man.
So true.
I hurt my back this morning, so I did a little pain meds. I've got an injection scheduled for next week. Fortunately, it's been scheduled for a while. So,
Oof.
yes.
You're just counting down the days, I take it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But hey, we've got a lot of Notre Dame football to talk about today. I noticed Tom Frawley is in here today. And
what's up, Tom?
Thank you for the very nice email that you sent yesterday.
That made my day. I saw it this morning. It made my day.
It was delightful.
You, Tom. That was awesome.
Very delightful. USMA wants to know how that dinner went last night. Was it extravagant?
I got 2 words for you, Sean.
Free?
Polish style.
I'm
a big fan of the Polish style, man.
That's a big thing around these parts.
It is.
South Bend, the Polish style dinner.
I haven't been to one in quite a while because I haven't gone to like a catered event.
Yeah.
And it was not free, by the way. I had to pay.
Oh, okay.
They made the parents pay. The kid got in for free. We had to pay. But it was very tasty. It was good. The actual event itself was good. My wife's a huge fan of the Polish style. It's what we had at our wedding as well. So,
you're big on the Polish style. I'm not. Maybe it's because I didn't grow up around here. I don't know. I'm just not as hot on the Polish style. I like the chicken, depending on, where did you get the chicken last night, or was it straight up sausage? Okay.
Oh no, all of the above. You work your way down the line. You had the fried chicken, you had the sausage, the noodles, the mashed potatoes, the whole gamut. Green beans. It was good. It's really good.
All of the above. Okay. Yeah, I like the noodles. I like the chicken. That's as far as like the it's funny because we go to this fundraising thing every year and they always have, the family style Polish dinner. And I used to take because like they give you the sausages and you have like the potatoes and the noodles and the, sometimes some gravy or whatever and the green beans. It's like I'm having sausage. I need mustard. And they never serve mustard.
Really?
So I used to bring my own mustard and everybody kind of made fun of me. So I stopped bringing the mustard. So,
well, I'd make fun of you too, but that's okay. Cause the sausages were very well seasoned in my opinion, in this particular case. So,
all right.
It was good. Right. We got to, they gave out these like superlative awards to the player, to each player. Right. So that was kind of cool. And, kind of tongue in cheek stuff. Some of the players got roasted. It was good. And then the parents
did the kicker get roasted? That's the question.
No, not really. They basically thanked him for telling all of his soccer buddies to go fly a kite. Essentially, is what it was. Yeah, nice. It was pretty funny. But then all the parents had to say something about their own kid too. So I'm no stranger to a microphone, so I went ahead and took care of that for my kid. My wife just stood there looking beautiful. So
excellent.
It was good. It was good.
All right. We've got plenty of Notre Dame football to talk about tonight.
Yes.
I do want to tell you about my bookie, because if you've been following football this season, it's been a wild ride, and we're riding that wave into the playoffs right now. We're hitting the home stretch, and the favorites are cashing in at a historic rate this season, and I've been using my bookie. And if you're wondering where to start, here's a little cheat code. It's called Risk-Free Thursdays. Every Thursday, you take advantage of a no-pressure bet that's there to help you build your bankroll. Just look under the bet boost in the sports book and you will see it. It's basically a free shot at some extra cash, and we all love that. And, I get it. Why my bookie, you may ask? Well, here's my take. They make it easy for us to bet smart and bet big. It's not about throwing out random parlays. It's about finding value and making plays that make sense. So if you haven't jumped in yet, use our promo code IRISH. On your first deposit, they will double your money. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with my bookie. I knew someone would have to throw some salt in the wound by the way, after last night. Josh, he said he didn't watch the game, but he saw a clip where the Cowboys lost on a block punt. Maris Leofau had a couple of sacks last night, including a big third down sack, forced a punt, tie game. So they blocked the punt, and the punt goes past the line of scrimmage, which makes it a live ball, and a Cowboys player touched it but did not recover it. So the Bengals recover it, get a first down. Guess what they do? Score a touchdown and win the game. So that was neat. It was very Leon Lettish, is what it was, is what it reminded me of. Another day, Jesse will be in tomorrow. By the way, Jesse's bringing his whiteboard during mailbag day tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
So,
just throwing a whole wrench into the whole operation, huh?
Yep. Lots to be excited about. So I wanted to start with this today, Vince. One of our premium subscribers on the Champions Lounge asked if this playoff opener for the Irish against Indiana is a lose-lose situation in terms of like national perception, media, and all that kind of stuff. Because he says if Notre Dame wins, they'll say it was, it's against an inferior Big Ten opponent. And if they lose, it's just an avalanche of, more piling on Notre Dame. So what do you think about that?
I don't really disagree from a national media standpoint, because the national media is going to, you know how it goes, right? They're going to find their narrative, and hating on Notre Dame is a narrative that gets clicks and it gets listens and it gets all of the things that people want to have, right? And I think that that's accurate, to be perfectly honest with you. If they win, they beat a nobody upstart IU team, right? And if they lose, they never belonged in the first place. And it is what it is, man. Like, you can't listen to the national media if you're a Notre Dame fan. That's all I got to say. You've got to look at it one way and one way only. It's win. Like, just win. And eventually, if you keep winning, people are going to shut up. It is what it is.
Excellent point, John Kristofik. Notre Dame does not get to choose their
not
opponent.
Wrong. That's a great point.
That's a great. I think it's definitely a lose if they lose the game, because it's like they're going to pile on. If you lose the game, they're going to pile on, because it is. It's like you're Notre Dame, they're Indiana, you're the program with all this history, all this tradition, and you got to host it, and you were favored by more than a touchdown, and all this different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So from that aspect, you've got to win this game. Like, one, it's a playoff, so you've got to win anyway.
Right.
Be like, with everything, you're the very first team of any kind to get to host an FBS home playoff game. So, there is a lot on the line from that perspective. In terms of the nobody's going to care if you win, that might be true, but like, I wouldn't even who even cares at that point, because I think the attention is going to shift quickly enough, because you've got 11 days or something. Well, you've got a little bit more than that. You've got for the semifinal, basically. Yeah, you've got around 11 12 days basically, because it's New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
And it'll be for Notre Dame specifically, they have the first game of the playoff, and then they have the last game of the second round.
Yeah. And so that's my point. Like, you win this game, everything is going to shift quickly to, okay, now you're going down to the Sugar Bowl. You're going to take on Georgia. I think most of the emphasis is going to be on that. So I don't think it's going to be, it's not going to be nearly as bad if you win. Who cares if people ho-hum it, because now you're playing Georgia, and that's what you want. Like, that's really where, that, even though Georgia with Carson Beck and the injury and all that kind of stuff, it's still going to be like, Georgia's going to be your barometer, I think that's truly going to tell you how far you've come. Like, beating Indiana in the first round is still going to matter, because it is a 12-team field and all that, but the barometer is largely going to be Georgia, like what you do against Georgia.
And look, Notre Dame's favored right now against Georgia by 2.5 points. So take that for what it's worth, right? Somebody's given Notre Dame some respect in Vegas, at least. And maybe that's the Carson Beck effect. Maybe it's just the fact that Georgia's a flawed football team. That's definitely a possibility too. Yep. But you got to win this game. You have to win this game. I think you asked yesterday, or somebody asked, or it came up, or whatever. It was, is this a failed season if Notre Dame loses this game? Yeah, I think it is, right? I mean, how is it not a disappointment at this point with what Notre Dame has done over the last 10 games, going into this game with all the momentum? How is this not a disappointment? You got to win this game. If you're Notre Dame, you have to win this game, period. If you want to shut some people up, you got to win this game.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, so New Year's Day, 8:45 p.m.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Man, come on, man. It's like 8 o'clock is bad enough. Now we're going to wait around till 9 o'clock.
Sean, Brian and I were talking about doing a show the next morning or whatever. I'm like, like we're going to be up so late. Like, no, it's not going to happen,
man.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's, Decaf was saying he didn't realize, the amount of days off. And that's kind of the cool thing with this format. It's not quite 2 weeks, but it's more than a week because they're matching it up with New Year's basically. So it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday games. So
this is the last. Cool. This is the last week, like the weekend of the first round is the last time that college football is going to be played on a Saturday. Like they are avoiding the weekend completely because the NFL has the weekends pretty much tied up. So
because don't forget, like there are going to be 2 NFL games going on the day of, basically the day after Notre Dame's game, December 21st.
Yes.
That Saturday.
There's a reason they're on TNT.
That's exactly right.
I'm just saying.
That's exactly right. And that's, there's a reason that Ohio State and Tennessee are the ESPN night game. They put Notre Dame on Friday night and they put Ohio State, Tennessee Saturday night. Yeah. That's exactly right. And everybody else got fed to the wolves. And, again, we've talked about this before, but like the NFL justified it as the 4 teams who are playing that Saturday game are also going to play on Christmas Day, which is Wednesday this year. So it's kind of like your Thanksgiving, like you would play Sunday and then like if you played on Thanksgiving Thursday, so it's just shifted a day so that it's a little bit of a short week, but that's how they're justifying it is the Christmas Day people are also playing that Saturday.
Gotcha. So, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't, everything is about winning at this point. So I just wouldn't care what people are saying, like if they poo-poo your win or whatever. It's like, hey, everything is survive in advance now. So you can disregard it if you want, but I think as TD4ND said, a win is a win. That's what it's all about at this point. So we've got some Marcus Freeman comments that he had in his little media chat the other day. And statistically, Indiana has the number 1 pass efficiency offense in the nation. Notre Dame obviously had some ups and downs facing USC and their passing attack to close out the regular season. So Freeman was asked during the Zoom call the other day if that USC experience can help prepare his team for IU's offense. Here's what he had to say.
He was a really good offense that did some good things in the passing game, made some plays. I think our guys were able to look at that game and see where some of our mistakes were, and some of that you have to, take your hat off to that opponent and to those players and that team. But our guys will be ready to go. The stats show that this offense is extremely, done a really good job at the passing game and the passing attack. And so it will be a great opportunity for us to come up with a good plan and go compete on Friday.
So, Vince, what do you think?
I think USC. Wow. I don't know where that came from. Look, USC has players across the board, skill-wise. And I think that's a great test. I don't think IU can match up with USC from a skill position standpoint, across the board. And so that's a great, tune-up for Notre Dame, no doubt about it. And look, USC definitely showed some warts for Notre Dame and some things that they didn't do very well specifically on that Saturday that they need to clean up. There's no doubt about it. Do I think that they can and they will clean those things up? I do. I'm not saying they overlooked USC because I don't think that at all, but I also think that it is tough. Yes, it's a rivalry game and all of that, but they weren't very good this year, right? But they still have talent. And USC brought it, man. Like they took it to Notre Dame especially their offense versus Notre Dame's defense. And I think that, IU's probably going to look at that game film, probably try to replicate some of the things that USC tried to do. I just don't know that IU has the horses to do what USC did offensively.
And that's the thing, so, because again, like we can talk about, how well Notre Dame did in that game. USC still has a pretty, they have guys who are going to play in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
in that receiving core. I don't think that IU does, and and that's based on listening to some NFL talent evaluator type guys who I've heard talk about Indiana. It's like they're much more about the system and just the familiarity with the system, because a lot of those guys are the James Madison guys, right, that came over with Curt Signetti. What Indiana doesn't have is like a 6'6" and a 6'5" guy like USC has, with talent to go with it. That to me is where some of the bigger issues came into play for Christian Gray, specifically, and for Notre Dame's secondary. It was just about some of the skill. Like we've talked about this, with different teams throughout the season. USC has talent. They're just not particularly, they're not as well coached as Indiana. Indiana is a very well coached team. That's why they are where they are right now, because Indiana is a very well coached team. But I think physically, Notre Dame is going to match up a heck of a lot better with the skill talent that the Hoosiers are going to put on the field in that game.
Yeah, no, 100%. Completely agree with that. And you have to be careful when you're a team that is game planning for another team and trying to replicate what another team did. You know what I mean? And look, I'm not saying that IU is going to try to do that, because you're right. They are very well coached. Curt Signetti has done a fantastic job of getting the absolute most out of his roster. No doubt about it. But he's going to have to be careful, though, not to try to replicate what other teams tried to do. You can look at where did Notre Dame struggle defensively? Well, they struggled in the NIU game, and they struggled in the USC game, I guess you could say. The difference was
a little bit against Louisville.
A little bit against Louisville.
Passing attack.
But again,
you look at who was, remember, Christian Gray was out.
Absolutely.
That game.
And Christian Gray didn't have a good game. He'll be the first one to tell you that against USC, right? The difference is the Notre Dame offense. That's the difference. The Notre Dame offense was scoring at will against USC to start off the game. And it's the first time in recent memory that the offense was like, hey, defense, you're not having a great day. We got you. You know what I mean? Like that hasn't happened at Notre Dame in a long time. And I think that's what people are forgetting, that this Notre Dame offense is pretty stinking good too.
Yeah, and look, I'm not trying to tell you there's no talent on the Indiana side. I'm just saying I think that the specific things that were the issue with USC against the secondary, I don't think that they're going to be like, Rourke's going to complete some passes, but at the same time, he had his worst passing game against Ohio State. And what did we talk about yesterday? Notre Dame's defense is every bit as good as Ohio State, if maybe not a little bit better. Notre Dame has an elite defense. Now, statistically, Indiana also has a really good defense, against the run, all those different things. I would be curious to see what Indiana's numbers would look like if they had to go up against Army and Navy in the same season, because that's gonna naturally inflate some of those rushing numbers. I think that they probably end up they're giving up like 70 yards a game on the ground right now. I think that number probably pops up closer to 100. If you have to play the two service academies, even if you win those games, because that's how those guys, they're always going to keep running the ball. So you're going to give up numbers. And like Mike says, Surratt is pretty good. And I'm not saying he's not good, but he's also 6'2". He's not literally 6'5", 6'6", which specifically was part of the issue against USC, just the sheer size and athleticism that those guys had.
Yeah, no, I could not agree with you more. Notre Dame's pass defense, their pass defense efficiency, all of those different things, they're all really, really good. And everybody that I hear that is dogging Notre Dame, which is fine, dog away, but they're all saying, they gave up so many yards to USC, to a backup quarterback, and all these different things. Yeah, you know what? They didn't have a good game. They did not have a good day.
They gave up yards and they won. UCLA gave up fewer yards and lost. So which result would you rather have?
Correct. It's like you did. people focus in, they narrow in on the one thing that makes Notre Dame look bad and makes IU look good, and that's what they stick with, right? That's where it is right now. And that's why they have to play the game. Like, that's why I'm excited about this matchup in particular, because to be honest with you, and I think that who was it? Mike said it perfectly, and I'll pull up his comment here. He said the fact is IU has faced two really good defenses this season, Ohio State and Michigan, and it didn't go well for IU. The Irish D is every bit those guys, so it's going to be tough sledding for IU. Right there. I that is a sound, analysis of the situation. Okay. When they play a tough physical defense, they struggle.
Yeah.
And are they convinced? I know IU fans are, but are people who watch football, are you convinced that going up against Notre Dame's defense is IU's offense going to be able to score more points than Notre Dame's offense going up against IU's defense? That's going to be tough. And I don't think you can answer that question logically and say, yes, that's going to happen.
Right. Because again, we ran through the whole litany of, like who they've played. And, there are plenty of people who just flat out would have left Indiana out, again, like some national people, who would have left Indiana out of the field because of the fact that they didn't play anybody. They would have put one of those 2-loss SEC teams in, over in Indiana and over at SMU for that matter as well. But specifically, because again, we ran through the whole thing yesterday. Michigan and Ohio State are the only two teams that Indiana played that have a winning record this season. And, while you can say, well, who has Notre Dame played? They played 8 bowl eligible teams.
Right.
And
IU played 4.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were 6-6.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just reality. Like those are just like, that's not even emotional stuff talking. Like those are just facts, right? They played 2 Big Ten teams in the top half of the Big Ten. They feasted off the bottom half of the Big Ten.
If Michigan had an offense, like any offense, they would have beaten Indiana. Yeah. Because like you said, like those were the 2 best defenses that they played. Michigan's defense got better as the season went along. And, obviously it was a low scoring game. It was a low scoring game against Ohio State. They won, even though they didn't have that much more offense. So, yeah, I mean, look, we've got another week that we get to pick this whole thing apart, So
the best part is, and people are saying, oh, it's going to be a blowout. I'm not saying it's going to be
I don't think it's going to be a blowout.
I use a good team, but as Trevor aptly put it, all you got to do is win. Like, the margin of victory means bupkis right now. Just win the game.
Right.
Just win the game. I don't care how you do it. Win the game.
I think Notre Dame is, and I'm not saying Indiana is not a physical team, but Notre Dame is going to be the much more physical team. And we're going to hear some comments coming up in rapid fire that I think are pretty good. I hope you're excited about rapid. I'm excited to play some of these comments for you.
Let's go, baby. I saw there's a ton of audio. Like, I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, there is. And a couple pretty prominent names that you're going to recognize.
And I've got reasons. I got stuff. I'm ready, man.
I think you're going to be happier than mad, when you hear some of the things that
but there's reasons.
Saying.
There's also reasons. So, which I'm excited to get
to. Ulterior. All right. So I just feel like, we played this yesterday, but I just feel like I've got to play this again. Marcus Freeman talking about Curt Signetti.
I mean, coach has done a wonderful job to take this program to win 11 games in the Big Ten and in a Big Ten season, and to have this team ready to make a run in the playoffs. I mean, it's a credit to the coach. I didn't know much about him. I took a minute and Googled him and looked at some of the things he's done in the past at his other places. I mean, he's won everywhere he's been. So he's done a great job. We expect a great opponent. I've just briefly started looking at them. They're a talented team that really takes care of the football, right? They play complementary football. Their defense is a pressure attacking defense that really makes you earn everything you got and you get. And the offense is done a good job of taking care of the football, being consistent at what they do, and done some really good things in the red zone. So that's just my initial look at them. Obviously, we have a few days to really take a deep dive and figure out a plan of attack as we get ready for a Friday game.
I mean, it's literally like, Marcus Freeman had someone feeding him lines like, don't forget to say you Googled him. Don't forget to say he's won everywhere he's been, like right out of Signetti's mouth.
And I'm okay with it. I am absolutely 100% here for all of it. And it was just, he is just Dr. Smooth, man. Like that was just smooth. That was great. It's great.
I would have been, trying to deliver that with a straight face. I still don't know how he did it. Still don't.
Just fantastic. I mean, I and it's like if you weren't really listening to what he had to say, you probably missed it, which I think is very interesting. But he just, man, that was fantastic. It was just great. It was great.
It was beautiful.
Yes,
so Freeman also talked about Lauren Lando, first year strength and conditioning sports football performance.
He's got some fancy name. He's the strength coach.
Strength coach. About the plan that he put together to get the Irish not just through the season, but through this long playoff push that's coming now as well.
You look at it as in different cycles or different seasons throughout the year. Is when he was first hired. You go through winter conditioning to get them ready for 15 practice of spring ball and getting them as strong and as fast, but also in football shape. And then after spring ball, you give them a couple weeks until the end of school to get some workouts in, some testing in, and then the summer conditioning and summer workouts ready for a season. And he's done an unbelievable job. The ability to tailor our workouts based off the loads from games, based off of, do we have a bye week coming up, and all those different things are situations that he's stayed ahead of the curve. I wouldn't say we've changed anything in terms of thinking about, hey, let's tailor this workout for the playoffs. What we had to do is as soon as the USC game was over and say, okay, what are we going to do this week? We didn't really get on the practice field until Saturday, but we needed to make sure that physically they were staying in shape in the weight room, running on the practice field so that we didn't lose all those gains we've made during the season. So now we're into practice mode. Obviously, we'll get back to practicing for an opponent starting this week. And but Lauren's done an unbelievable job at really making sure our guys are ready, but also not just ready, but physically and even mentally, ready for the week and ready to maximize their physical bodies.
So there's the answer. And I do think like it's interesting because obviously Indiana didn't have to play in a conference championship game either. So they've been off as long as Notre Dame. So there's no advantage, one team or the other there. When you think about the late, October, November bye weeks that Notre Dame has, Vince, and now, having this extra time off to let their bodies again rest last week and strategically, like a guy like Howard Cross as an example, and Jeremiah Love, with their injuries, it just feels like like it is timed out pretty well when you're looking at potentially 4 more games to come here, through in December and January.
Oh, the 3 weeks is fantastic. But like you said, they had a bye week, 3 games, 3 weeks off, right? Then they got a game, then they got 10 days. Then they got a game, they got like another 10 day. Like there's more than a week in between these games for the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, first of all, number one, I think it makes sense from a safety standpoint. I'll get that out of the way, right? Because you're talking about teams that are going to have to play potentially 16 games. That's an NFL season, right?
Right.
And we always talk about rookies in the NFL hitting that rookie wall and all these different things. 16 games is a lot of games, right? Spread over, 4 or 5 months? So this is, I think they're doing a good job of spreading it out the way they should. But for Notre Dame specifically, it helps tremendously.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And like when you look at the way they were playing in that USC game, like they didn't look fatigued, obviously, like they looked still like, like a very powerful, very explosive team. And, again, like to get some time off
Yep.
You know,
it's gonna be huge.
go into
fresh legs for Notre Dame.
Right.
I mean, they've got SEC speed now, right? They're super physical. So you get a well-rested Notre Dame. IU probably is wishing that they played this week, or last week. You know what I mean? Like a week after that they actually played to try to take advantage of that long season for Notre Dame. But now they're going to get 3 weeks to rest up. Now, look, IU gets 3 weeks to rest up too, but I still think 100% Notre Dame is different than 100% IU.
So Scott L. Esquire says, don't belittle Indiana. I don't think we were belittling them, were we? He says, we played an awful Florida State team. We were still a legit top 10 team that week. Indiana is the best team we've played this year. All Notre Dame media should be hyping IU to help the team. So,
first of all, they don't listen to us. Notre Dame's not listening to us. Exactly. I just want to get that out there. They're not, players, they're not listening to us, number one.
No.
But you go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to get that out there.
I mean, he put team in all caps. He said Indiana's the best team, all caps, that we've played this year. So, I mean, if you mean, just from the aspect of, like their cohesiveness and, some discipline, whatever that happens to be, like they play best together as a team, okay. I still think Texas A&M is better than Indiana.
100%.
Like if we're just going like the actual on field, like this, like I would take Texas A&M over Indiana, and that's not belittling Indiana. I do think they're a good team, because again, they've won 11 games this year. No Indiana University football team had ever won double-digit games ever. Like that's going back to the late 1800s.
Right.
And so. Like at any stretch, they had never done that. They have had 15 winning seasons, including this one since 1950 when they last beat Notre Dame. Like this is an incredible, what they've done this year has just been incredible, especially with the first-year head coach, running things. But that doesn't mean, again, like you can still, you can give them credit, but you can also still look at them with a critical eye and go,
right.
Who have they beaten? Because that's, that was the thing we were talking about yesterday with Sigety when he was talking to CBS Saturday night was, it's like, well, we lost to the number 2 team in the country and Penn State lost to the number 4 team in the country. Well, okay, but who have you beaten? And the best team they've beaten is a barely above 500 Michigan team. That there's no disputing that. Like that is the best team. And there's really a considerable drop off even from Michigan to the next best team that they beat. And that's, I think that's most of our point. Notre Dame still has to go out and beat them. Like what has happened for either of these teams up until now is completely irrelevant. Because now it's, again, it's playoffs and it's do or die, and you got to go out and show it. So, like all the talking, all this stuff, it's great for us. It's great for the fans to, to be able to listen because you're excited about it. And a lot of you are going to get to go out there and freeze your butts off at this first playoff game and hopefully have a lot of fun and, everything else. But everyone's just got to go out and prove it now is what it comes down to.
100%. And again, we're not belittling IU. I think they're a good football team. Every team that's in the playoff is a good football team. I mean, that's the be-all, end-all of it. They're a good football team. The issue is IU hasn't played a bunch of good football teams. Like that's the point that we're making.
Right.
And people can dog Notre Dame's schedule all they want, and that's fine. But man, they better be looking in the mirror if you're an IU fan. I mean, that's my biggest thing. I mean, again, they played 2 defenses with a pulse and struggled. So, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I think most of the points were their schedule just isn't that great, No. Like, if you're grading on the curve, it's obviously, I mean, it's a great season no matter what, because it's Absolutely. Indiana, and what were the expectations for Indiana
no doubt
coming into this season. So, final exams. Like this is also final exam time, and Marcus Freeman talked a little bit about how they, the schedule is going to go with that.
Yeah, it's obviously been something we've been working on from the beginning of the year. Even in the summer, we started to have conversations with the academic side, the provost, and we have exams during game week, we'll also be able to practice like we would any other week. So it's just understanding it's a little bit different week with you have your block for when you'll be able to practice, and then knowing that you have exams in the afternoon to make sure you're ready for. So again, that's one of the challenges of playing in the playoffs the week of exams. But again, our guys will be prepared for both their exams and the game.
I mean, they were going to have to kind of, work around some different things and stuff like that. I think I saw somebody ask, they are obviously, they are practicing right now, and they'll be practicing next week. It's just a matter of like where they, like, for example, like there'll be some morning practice, like they'll get it all figured out.
And look, these, Notre Dame kids are used to juggling school and football. Like this isn't like a new thing that all of a sudden they got to go to school to pass their classes. Like, obviously Notre Dame is different, and they are used to going to class, and they're used to doing what they got to do. So I don't think it's going to be that much of an effect. And to be honest with you, Sean, if I remember finals week the way I remember finals week, yes, there's a lot of studying and there's a lot of other things, but it's a lot less actual going to class and actually doing stuff. Like, you actually have more free time depending on how you want to spend it during finals week. So I don't really think it's going to be all. That's a non-factor for me personally.
Scott says talent is overrated. You must not follow recruiting, Scott, because
or care about it. I suppose.
Look, I don't think you can overrate talent, but at the same time, obviously, how you were coached matters. Like, coaching matters.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say that
talent is not overrated. It's not. Sorry.
No.
Now, talent on a team that doesn't have good coaching, sure. So, Scott, are you saying that Marcus Freeman's a lousy coach? I mean, is that what we're getting at? That Notre Dame has all the talent, but it doesn't matter? Or what are we like? What's the point of that comment? That's all. And I'm trying to have a conversation about it. Like, what are we thinking here?
Yeah, well, and I'm putting the comment back up. He says Bama has way more talent. They showed up and played close to their best game each week. They also don't have nearly as good a coach as they used to have. Now, I think DeBoer is still a good coach, but you went from literally the best coach in college football history to another guy who is a pretty good coach. There's a difference in, there were plenty of Alabama players who either, are playing in the NFL now because of the transfer portal. There are guys who left. Like Saban has said, there's not as much talent on that specific roster.
Correct.
As has been on that roster the last few years. That doesn't mean there's not talent. It's coached differently. And I think that, similar to Indiana, like the guys who were still there, they were coached differently this year, and they did have a better coach, and that has mattered.
Right. And I'm not saying Alabama doesn't have talent, because they do, but that team was primarily also put together in the transfer portal too. You know what I mean? And so do they have the kind of cohesion that you need to have to be a good team, which is what we're talking about here, right? So Indiana was primarily put together in the transfer portal, right? But they've done a good job this year of becoming a good team. Notre Dame's not primarily put together in the transfer portal. There are some key spots that are transfer portal guys, no doubt, but they're not primarily put together in the transfer portal. So that there's a difference there.
When you're watching Jeremiah Love run 50 yards and run away from everybody, tell me that talent is overrated then.
Correct. That's it. Running away from and running over as well, or jumping over for that matter.
Over, under, around.
Yeah. I mean,
I still want to see him do the Saquon Barkley backwards.
Yeah,
like
I'm waiting. Cool. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But talent is, I'm sorry. You're going to, as a coach, you're going to allow me to have good talent on my team.
Talent's not overrated. It just still has to be coached well.
Correct.
And it's still a team sport. That's why, it's much different to have, a small, like even 5 uber talented guys on a football field, because you've got 3 sides of the ball, offense, defense, special teams, compared to if you had like that many on a basketball court. It's going to be a lot different. And even Calipari had some issues at Kentucky. That's why he's not at Kentucky anymore. Keith Kelso, He says the two coaches are selling this game like wrestlers. Like it is like they're cutting promos out there.
Man. I mean,
who's going to put who over?
The only thing that Marcus Freeman has said is I Googled the coach. Now he set himself up for that one. Like Kirk Signetti set himself up for that one with the whole Google me thing.
I mean, if you're going to come out with that right away, like you got to, I mean, Ohio State obviously used it. Ohio State wins. You can Google it. Like,
and I'll tell you
you're
what,
setting yourself up.
Like, I mean, Kurt is the one out there throwing shade at Notre Dame specifically, saying all they did was lose to NIU and we should be hosting the game.
Yeah,
like he's the one throwing rocks, man. Like Marcus's comment was more like just a little jab, like a ha 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 kind of a thing. Kurt's throwing stones, man. So look, it's not going to be an.
No, you're very right. Like Freeman is a lot more subtle.
Yes.
He's got more rounded edges to it. Not jagged like Signetti. Like Signetti is going to come out like Marvin Hagler and just punch you straight in the face. And Freeman is going to dance around a little bit more like Sugar Ray Leonard and
get you tired out.
That's right. Wear you down and see how it goes. So, but it's fun. Kumbaya at the end of the day. Ant VR wanted to know if anyone asked Freeman about the Bears job. Yes, someone did
actually,
and he just basically went back to the with team success, there's going to be interest, but he has no, there's nothing specifically going on with the Chicago Bears.
Right. It's the whole team success. It leads to individual success. Like that's kind of his talking point when it comes to the Bears. Like he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere.
I don't think he is. Salty giving us a hard time about staying up late. Remember to have our warm milk on hand. Doesn't the warm milk put you to sleep?
That's what I thought too. I thought that put you to bed. I will have no problem going to bed. You don't have to worry about that.
Joe wants to know, he says, since the elements are not a factor anymore, don't you think Saturday day game would be better?
I don't just because it's not going to be snowing. Is that the issue? Because it's going to be colder at night than it is during the day by about 10 degrees. So the elements are still a factor. And frankly, I want it as cold as possible. Look, if anybody's ever played football in the cold, and I'm sure many people in the chat have.
I think it's Notre Dame advantage.
You want the cold, because like you said, I think Notre Dame's the more physical team. And look, I want people to try to tackle Jeremiah Love head on when it's cold, because you're going to feel it all the way down to your toes. So I want it as cold as possible. And it's going to be about 24 degrees at kickoff. So nice and cold.
What is that handle? Timmy NASCAR 28. Welcome, Timmy says, longtime watcher, first time chatter. Love the show.
And I'll also say this, and people are probably going to get on me for it, and that I love that. Bloomington's a lot warmer than South Bend. They don't get as much snow.
I mean, it's still cold, but
it's cold, but it's not as
in
cold.
In general,
there's even a big difference.
You don't get lake effect snow down there. I'll tell you that much. You don't, because we still get even if it's not lake effect, because I think people forget how close South Bend is to Lake Michigan, and when that wind blows, man, you feel a lot of that Lake Michigan moisture coming over.
Correct. This way. And I mean, even going down to Indianapolis, does it get cold? Sure. But there's a significant difference between South Bend and Indianapolis.
Yes.
And then south. So, yeah, big difference for me on that one.
Especially at night. Okay. Right. So Timmy was asking, what is our record if we play Alabama's schedule this year? So I'll just run through it here real quick. Auburn, Oklahoma, Mercer, LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Wisconsin, South Florida, Western Kentucky. Now, I get the fact that Georgia's on there. I get the fact you're going to play LSU, but people have made this. And Tennessee is obviously a good team. They're in the playoff, but so you've got two playoff teams on the schedule. What do you think, Vince? People have made this out to be it's just a
Murderer's row.
I think Georgia was up again, like, and Kirby Smart made the comments about Craig Sankey on the podium with Sankey standing there the other night about, fixing that schedule next year, like the road games.
That was hilarious. Like,
I know.
What a comment to make. Are you kidding me? Your non-conference schedule might be one of the easiest in the country.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I agree with what some of these people are saying. I think it's a 2-loss.
Yeah, 1 to 2 losses. I think it's 1 to 2 losses.
And you're on the bubble. You're still very competitive, a really good chance to be in the playoffs.
I think that's fair. I think 1 to 2 losses is a fair assessment of what that schedule would be. Now, I don't think many, national people who don't really pay attention would think that. That's what I think, because I do think Notre Dame has a ton of talent. And I also don't think anybody on that Alabama schedule is a juggernaut. There's no juggernaut in college football this year.
Right.
Every team has shown some serious warts.
You've got 2 really good teams in Georgia and Tennessee, but they're like, I think it's just very even, like in terms of like I think that they would be even matchups, and who would be favored in those games would be dependent on where they're playing it, basically.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Notre Dame would have great opportunity in every single one of those games. Maybe they slip up 1 or 2 times. But other than that, yeah, I think I don't think that they're on the outside looking in with 3 losses like Alabama is. I'll say that. I do believe that from a football analysis standpoint, not a fan standpoint.
Right. Because let's remember, Notre Dame beat Texas A&M, and like A&M lost to South Carolina, and again, South Carolina was on there, again, a good team, but like, you do have at least a little bit of a barometer because of the fact that Notre Dame went to Texas A&M early, and A&M ended up being what 3 losses? Was that what they had overall? Let me check it.
Alabama had 3.
No, I'm talking about A&M. Did A&M have 3 or 4? 4 losses. They lost 4 overall, 3 in the SEC.
Yeah.
So
one to Notre Dame.
Yeah. The fact they lost to Auburn. Oof.
That's a tough pill right there. That's a tough pill to swallow. That's a tough one. Because they'd have been in the SEC championship game if they win either that one or the Texas game.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
They only needed one more
Texas,
win.
They still would have made it to the conference championship game.
So, which is wild all by itself.
Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Is it time? Are we there?
It is. We are.
Then let's go.
So we didn't get to touch on the Echoes Award winners over the weekend. And
that kind of went under the radar a little bit, didn't it?
Completely under the radar. And that's, for those not familiar with the Echoes, that's the team awards thing that they do, where they hand out the awards at the end of the season. So Riley Leonard was team MVP. Xavier Watts was defensive player of the year. Bryce Young, special teams player of the year.
Yep.
Riley Mills got the Iron Cross Award. Justin Fisher, our Mishawaka guy, offensive scout team player of the year. Jack Kaiser was the man of the year. Jeremiah Love, the offensive player of the year. Emil Wagner got the scholar athlete. Max Hurleman was the walk-on of the year. And Sean Sevillano Jr. was the defensive scout team player of the year. So disagree with any, are there any that you would shuffle around? What do you think?
I've been trying to find one that I would disagree with, to be perfectly honest with you. And I'm having a hard time kind of coming up with one.
Yeah.
Because I think they're all like, I can't necessarily vote on who the scout team players of the year are. We're not at practice, right? I mean, those guys are talented, and I agree because I like who they are and I think they're talented, but we're not there. So those kind of have to go off the list, right? Hurleman as the walk-on of the year. Which other walk-on would make sense there? Because Faison's not a walk-on anymore. Faison probably won this award last year. You know what I mean? So Hurleman is the obvious choice for me in that category. And then the rest, like, I don't know what Emil Wagner's grades are, but apparently they're good. So, Kaiser deserves something because he's a leader on this team and he's been here forever. So I have no problem with him getting the man of the year, whatever that entails, right? And Mills, Iron Cross, that sounds right for a defensive lineman. So I'm cool with that because I think it would have been a great debate between Cross and Mills, possibly if Cross was healthy all season. But the thing about Mills is he stepped up when Cross went down. So I feel like, okay, I'm in, right? I think that's great. Leonard MVP. Yeah, you're not here without Riley Leonard. Watts defensive player of the year.
And that's what
makes sense.
I think, like MVP and offensive player of the year, that Jeremiah Love got, like those, like that might have been the discussion, because the way they always spread this out, everybody gets a little of something. But I think it makes sense because the quarterback, you're not here without Riley Leonard. So I think that you can argue that he's the most valuable, and Jeremiah Love makes sense as the offensive player of the year.
Yeah, I think they all make sense. I had trouble coming up with somebody else, to be perfectly honest with you.
I mean, in Father David, like the walk-on of the year, I think conversation for Tyler Buckner there, like Buckner kind of hits a little bit of all of these things, like the scout team quarterback for both of the service academy games, Army and Navy. He's the scout team quarterback, and look how Notre Dame just demolished, both of those really good offenses, and what he did on the field, with the fakes and stuff like that. Like,
that's a good call.
He, I think it makes sense, but I think it also makes sense, like for what Max Hurleman turned into, much less heralded, and
he had a bigger role. I mean, let's be honest, he's got a bigger role, right?
It's just that Tyler Buckner, the spotlight was a little bit brighter on him just because we had history with
correct.
Him. So, yeah, I think they're good. So, former College Game Day analyst David Pollack, who of course was a great linebacker at the University of Georgia back in his playing days, he was on Todd McShay's podcast this week, and he had this to say about Notre Dame.
Buying into what Notre Dame's selling, and that you could legitimately see them making a run at the national championship. Am I wrong in that assessment?
No, you're right. And I know that kind of, after all the years, Todd, that we've done this, it's kind of hard to get it out because they've let us down so many times in big moments. But, man, with the teams that are extremely flawed this year, which we've gone down the list of those throughout the year, I think Notre Dame knows exactly who they are. Mm-hmm. I think who they are will travel. I think who they are will be consistent. They got 3 guys that average over 6 yards a carry. I think that will serve them well in the playoffs. I think the passing game, listen, this ain't an air raid attack by any stretch, but they're going to attack the middle of the field, easy throws. They put you in conflict. They got a running quarterback that can do, and their defense is really good. I think their defense is physical. I think they're fast. I think they play their tails off. I worry about the kicking game because I think they're like 6 for 12 in field goals. That ain't good. That part definitely scares me, but I just watch them and I'm like, why not Notre Dame?
Why not Notre Dame? So that's David Pollack on the Todd McShay podcast. And, I thought he made a lot of great, like for starters, it's true. Notre Dame has, let a lot of people down in these games in the past, waiting for him to dig out of it. And there's no disputing the kicking thing. We've talked about that the last couple of weeks. That, like, to me, that is one of my bigger concerns. Like, if,
I get that
on a Friday night, at 11:30, it's that ball is frozen solid, and you're asking a kicker, who's had some injury and, consistency issues. That to me is a big. What'd you think of the rest of what he said, though?
It's amazing what happens when your paycheck isn't from ESPN, but you have a reason.
You think it's all changed now?
You have a reason football analysis when it comes to Notre Dame. Like, I'm here for it. But look, all joking aside, he's clearly watched these games. He's clearly watched Notre Dame. He knew about the field goal kicking issues. He knows about, 3 guys with over 6 yards per carry. Like, he knows who this team is. He knows what they're good at. But he also knows what their flaws are. Like, that's solid analysis. And when he's done analyzing the entire situation, he thinks Notre Dame can make a run. I got to tell you, I guess I'm a little surprised, but at the same time, that's solid analysis. Solid analysis. No,
I know. And, like, who they are travels. And I hadn't really thought about that until I heard him say that. But he's exactly right. Because, what's Marcus Freeman wanted, to build this team around? Offensive, defensive, line-driven team. And like, you'll hear some more comments here coming up in a second. But like more and more people are just really impressed by this Notre Dame offensive line, that we sat back and we're like, what is this thing? For most of the season, they're really impressed by it. And, when you've got a great defense like Notre Dame has, it's going to keep you in every game. And that's what, just like look all the way back to the Texas A&M game and the way that thing played out. And like when I look at Indiana as an example, are they going to make some plays? Sure, they're going to make some plays. But I feel like because of Notre Dame's defense, like at the end of the day, Notre Dame is going to be the one who has the chance to make more explosive plays than Indiana is going to have in that game. And, like you said, I mean, that'll travel anywhere. And we've seen it all season long. Now, I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I would have liked to seen Notre Dame more tested against, a little bit better defense somewhere along the line, but it is what it is at this point.
Yep. Could not agree more.
Does it increase your confidence though in Notre Dame's chances, or make you feel more uneasy when you hear someone like Pollack kind of heap that praise on them?
This is going to sound super conceited, but I don't really care what other people say. Like, I trust my eyes in the games that I watch. And you know what I mean? Like, I trust my own analysis. It's just nice to hear somebody say what I think as well. You know what I mean? Based on actually watching the games. Like, I can be just as critical as the next guy when it comes to Notre Dame. They've got flaws too, right? But, it makes me... I guess it reassures me, that what I think my analysis is kind of spot on. So I guess that's a really conceited answer, which is not the way I meant that to come out, but that's what happened. So
it does though.
It does. It's fine.
Very conceited.
But I don't care what other people have to say. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter to me. Like the national people, I care what you have to say, Sean Stein.
Okay. All right. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure you do.
I do. I just rest on every word.
All right, so here's some more. Now we've got McShay and Pollack with their take on Riley Leonard right now.
Riley Leonard, here's the difference with Riley Leonard. I think, to your point, he actually knows exactly who he is now and knows exactly what this team is. And even there was a play 18 for whatever it's worth. There was a play against USC. He's rolling to the right. He's got a receiver. I think it was the tight end. It was a scramble rules. The receivers are kind of now trying to break free at the end. He's rolling to his right. He's got a chance to take a vertical shot. Receiver's open. He should have taken the chance, right? But he turns it down just to go pick up a few yards. And it kind of spoke to, while it's frustrating, I'm like, just take the shot downfield. It speaks to, it's more important that we get the safe, secure, guaranteed yards here, pick up, and we'll run the ball next down and keep things moving than it is to take a shot and maybe something bad happens. So
there's so many things, by the way, I love about that people just don't understand at home. If you want to know if people watch tape like Todd, it's when they get excited about offensive linemen and they start going 54 and they talk about seal blocks and they talk about quarterbacks taking vertical shots. And here's the thing with Riley Leonard. He ain't great at that. Yeah. He ain't. But you know what? 88's a big freaking target. 9's a big freaking target. I think they can use that, and I think they can stay in every game. I think they can be physical, but you're right. I don't. There's not a lot of flash and sizzle. There's not a ton of explosive plays, but they're going to make you defend. They're not going to make a ton of mistakes. He's not going to make a ton of mistakes, and that quarterback element of the run, and he ain't scared. He is going to lower his shoulder. He takes more hard shots than anybody to get extra yards. So I'm with you. I'm with you on the Irish, and I just love the tape mentions on play 18, rolling to his right. He threw it behind his back and made a nice catch.
I thought that I had, I guess it must have been another part, but McShay was talking about how he loved 54. He was like Anthony Knapp. 54. And he was talking about how that left side of the line is working so well together. And I mean, to me, obviously, when
74 is a big part of that.
Yes. And that was going to be my, but when Shrouth, that's really when this line really started clicking, is when Shrouth came back and moved over to the left side,
absolutely,
next to Anthony Knapp. The issues that Anthony Knapp has, has, whatever. Like
Right.
they have greatly diminished since you've had Trouth over there next to him. But it's, but like the point here to Riley Leonard, I mean, basically, what you hear him talking about is like Riley Leonard just knows how to win football games. And like, he's not going to necessarily go out there and be the greatest passer. And like you heard about, like lack explosive plays. Obviously that is more, the lack of explosion has come in the passing game where you would like to see more of that, but the guy just goes out there and finds ways to win games.
Yep.
And again, it goes back to that drive at the end of the Texas A&M game for me, but he has become so much more comfortable with just like the whole operation as this season has gone on.
And that's I think that's the biggest takeaway from this entire season for the offense is you can tell how comfortable Riley Leonard is. You can tell how comfortable Mike Denbrock is with Riley Leonard and that whole thing. I mean, we've talked about this a bunch, but it's true. And other people are seeing it, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. And if you didn't think that Pollack was watching film, the fact that he just rattled off a bunch of numbers of guys that play for Notre Dame, including the backup tight end, by the way.
Right.
Tells me
obviously he was talking
film.
about Mitchell Evans. He was talking about
Right.
Eli Raridan.
He's clearly watching film of this team, which I appreciate. I appreciate that. And look, I don't know kind of what he does with his podcast or, whatever. I don't know. But he's clearly taking the time to watch Notre Dame, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the analysis. And Todd McShay as well. He clearly watched Notre Dame games as well and can speak intelligently about what he's seen.
Right. And like McShay obviously watches things from, like he used to be on with, like right. I do miss the Todd McShay, Mel Kiper arguments that they used to have
100%.
on ESPN. I mean, that was like great TV, and the fact that it's gone. He had, so he had been out of the game kind of for a little bit after leaving ESPN, so just kind of his backstory. And this season he started showing up. You might remember, I think it was with you last week. It might've been with Jesse. We played some comments from the Ryan Russillo show. It was like McShay and Russillo. It might've been.
It wasn't
Jesse.
me, but that's okay. So
he's been on the McShay he's been on the Russillo show a lot this year, and they'll talk, college football and stuff like that. And then just within the last month, maybe month and a half, he got his own show on the Ringer Podcast Network. Gotcha. So that's kind of, like sort of
because he kind of disappeared for a while.
Yeah, he did.
Fell off the face of the earth.
He did, but he's still crunching film, like you said.
Love that though. I love it.
But I do think it's interesting that, because we talked about this, I think it was probably early November. The pass efficiency numbers for Riley Leonard have not been great because of the Northern Illinois game. But Notre Dame currently ranks 38th in team passing efficiency. So again, like for the entire season, not great. But if you look at Riley Leonard since the Northern Illinois game, and again, it's been probably a month or so, we updated this. He's got a passer rating of 152.19, which would rank number 22 in the nation. So he is considerably higher since then, with over 1,700 yards, 16 touchdown passes, and the 3 interceptions. And all of that, of course, does not take into account his rushing numbers. And I think that, that's what, again, like you're talking about cold weather. Yep. You've got 2 explosive running backs who can take it to the house on any given play. And you've got Riley Leonard,
who can take it to the house on any given play, by the way.
Exactly. And that's my point. Like, I think that actually plays very well. There are times that you would like a bit more from Riley Leonard and the receiving core, as passers, but it just feels like because of the threat of the run, when you've got at least 2 of those 3 guys on the field at any given time between Leonard, Price, and Love, like that, there's just that constant threat, that you're putting defenses in, and he just finds a way more times than not, just to get the job done and keep the sticks moving, like they were talking about there.
Yeah,
and I do think that plays at this part of the year.
I could not agree more. Look, at the end of the day, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, now, and everywhere in between, I don't care how Riley Leonard scores touchdowns, whether it's with his feet, whether it's with his arm, it's touchdowns accounted for. And for everybody that's like, oh, Rourke is going to be the man, he's going to do all, they account for about almost identical amount of touchdowns this year. Identical amount. So they all score the same to me, Sean. So
That's
good.
Right. Like, if all you're going to do is look at passing numbers, no, you're not going to be blown away by Riley Leonard. But he's a dual threat quarterback, and he's accounted for over 30 touchdowns. And all told, I haven't even looked at his stats here recently. He's pushing 3,000 total yards basically right now, and 30 touchdowns with just 5 interceptions. So, I mean, not bad, because all those touchdowns count. Okay, one more soundbite. Oh, before I do the soundbite, Brent says, where does Riley Leonard go in the NFL draft?
You're asking the wrong guys, really.
Yeah.
To be honest with you,
I think that you might be looking kind of just like Sam Hartman, like a free agent sign kind of thing. He would be an interesting kind of guy, though, like speaking of Sam Hartman, because you have Jaden Daniels in Washington and, the kind of offense they run. Leonard would be an interesting kind of guy, as a backup for that kind of offense, that kind of quarterback.
Yep.
But because the NFL is still a passing league, and you do have to be able to consistently throw the ball better than what Leonard is. College and pro, two totally different things, obviously. Yeah, and I tend to probably agree with what Chris Sabo was saying. Probably not, like I said, probably more free agent type guy, but I can see him getting it. I keep clicking and they keep showing up. I know.
Just kidding.
So
I just texted Ryan Roberts, see what he has to say. I'm not saying I disagree with anything you guys are saying, because teams are going to value throwing the ball more than running the ball, obviously, in the NFL. There's no doubt about it. And that's why Rourke is probably more of a NFL draft prospect than Riley Leonard is, to be perfectly honest with you. He said, so Ryan Roberts, I said, Leonard's draft stock, ? He goes, day 3 dart throw right now. So there you go.
Yeah, like somebody might take a shot at him.
Yeah, because
like
he
in the
fits
5th or 6th
round.
Yeah,
that they want to run. Right. It's going to have. Look, Riley Leonard's going to be a system guy. He's going to be He's only going to work in certain systems, and I think that is going to be a big part of that as well.
Right. Okay. So a final comment from the McShay show. This is Steve Mench, who I believe is kind of like the one of the producer for the show, but kind of takes part in the show as well. Here's why he likes Notre Dame.
Yeah, go ahead, Mench.
I like teams that can run the ball and stop the run this time of year. And you could say, all these games are inside. That's great. It's the end of the year, man. People are worn out. And if you can get guys, if you have a running attack like that and you can stop the run, I think it puts you in a great position for a playoff run.
So I went and studied some tape. There's some things that I love. Truly, like that offensive line, 54, his feet, seal blocks, moving, pass protection, the left tackle, the left guard next to him, second level blocks, the way they move together, the center, number 70, the combo blocks. Like, it's a beautiful thing watching their offensive line. Truly, like the way they work. And like you said, they know who they are. To me, Jeremiah Love, I love, you used to say that.
There's the love. Let's go.
Yeah. And he's different than he's not Jadarian Price. He's not 4, but he's all right. He's a good back.
He's all right. And so again, he's crunching. I knew that there was a place where I had that where he was talking about Knapp 54.
He's gotten a lot better, and it helps when you bring back Notre Dame's best offensive lineman, and stick them right next door to Anthony Knapp. But they have both adapted very well to playing next to each other. It was a little rocky at first. Because 74 was a little too worried about what 54 was doing. You know what I mean? But it has gotten so much better, and they work. He's not wrong. Like, if you just popped in Notre Dame film and you hadn't watched it all year long, you know what I mean? As far as the offensive line, you wouldn't 54 is unrecognizable from what he was when he first started.
Totally different guy right now.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Unrecognizable.
Guy. You know, and again, like it's amazing just what having Schrouth next to him has done,
Yep.
I think.
No doubt about it. And look, he's a true freshman. He's allowed to get better. You know what I mean? Like the first game out is not the finished product, and he's going to continue to get better as time goes on. And obviously, again, having Billy Schrouth next to him does not hurt the progression.
This is a good one from Outbound about Leonard. He said he would be a good Josh Allen backup, just needs to be a little bit better passing, but maybe a better passer than we have seen this year. It takes time to get on the same page with receivers. You know, again, like that kind of, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, even, you know, like that, those kind of offenses. I think that would be a place. You put an athlete like Riley Leonard in there. If he's the number, you know, he'd start off as the number 3 most likely, you know, because of the, you know, like the passing stuff. But, you know, so like even if he's scout team for a year or so and then, you know, ultimately get some kind of opportunity, I think that those would be great fits for a guy like Riley Leonard, potentially. All right. So Heisman Trophy nominees are out. We got the Heisman ceremony this weekend. You got Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel, Miami quarterback Cam Ward, Colorado two-way player Travis Hunter, and Boise State running back Ashton Genty. They are the 4 finalists. So, Vince, who's going to win the Heisman Trophy?
I think Travis Hunter is going to win, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it's a 2-man race, and then there's the other 2 guys. That's kind of how I feel about this whole thing. Like, Cam Ward was who Miami was, and when he struggled even a little bit, they lost. And then Dylan Gabriel is the quarterback on an undefeated football team, so that's why he's there. And then you've got Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty. Those are the 2 top guys, and you're going to almost be split between Hunter and Genty because Genty is an amazing back for what he does and who he is and how he has put this entire team on his backside and taking them to the college football playoff. There's no doubt about it. Travis Hunter, I think, is special. I mean, he's not the best wide receiver in the country. He's not the best corner in the country, but he's really freaking good at both.
Yes.
And he
really
plays all game long. And people, I feel like, kind of put that in a box someplace because they don't understand how difficult that actually is. And not only playing at a high level at both positions, but also practicing at a high level at both those positions.
You know, because there have been guys, you know, like Woodson, for example, you know, like there have been guys over the years who like, okay, your primary job is offense. And it's like, okay, you play him like 6 snaps a game, let him go out and run around and play receiver, you know, return punts or whatever. Travis Hunter played 709 offensive snaps and 713 defensive snaps this year. That's 1,422 total snaps, 118 snaps per game. So like compare that. Xavier Watts played 714 snaps total, 59 snaps a game. Riley Leonard, 683 total, 57 snaps per game. So, you know, again, like he's playing full-time, Hunter, on both sides of the ball, and he's not just playing. 92 receptions for over 1,100 yards and 14 touchdown catches.
You tell me Notre Dame wouldn't want a receiver just to do that?
That's Notre Dame's team practically right there.
Like, just do that. Like, you want a receiver just to be a receiver, you would kill for that.
Yeah.
You kill for it.
And then he had 11 pass breakups, 4 interceptions as a corner as well. I just don't see how he's, you know, like, I know everyone was getting all swept away with Ashton Genty and what he was doing last Friday night for Boise State. I mean, he's a great running back. He's got over 2,400 yards, but I don't think, you know, and like Jesse and I were having the conversation. He's like, well, if you take Genty away from Boise State, are they a playoff team? And I said, you know, look, that's a different conversation because that's MVP versus the best player. You know, like I just don't think you can argue against Travis Hunter with what he has done at a very high level on both sides of the ball this year. And just, you know, like, again, just starting with the sheer amount of snaps that he was playing, but he's not just out there filling a uniform. He's excelling on both sides of the ball. He's got to win the Heisman.
Right.
Nobody's done anything like this in freaking decades.
Like I said, he's not the best offensive player. He's not the best defensive player, but he's really freaking good at both. and it's really hard to be really freaking good at both. And, like you said, Charles Woodson won the Heisman Trophy, and he was a part-time, and that's generous, offensive player. You know what I mean? He was a full-time defensive player, really good at it. He's a very, 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 very part-time offensive player, and he was a returner, right? So he wasn't a two-way player like Travis Hunter is. He just wasn't. And, Woodson won it over Peyton Manning. So if that's going to happen, then I'm sorry, Hunter should win it over Genty.
Yeah. Like we just, again, we haven't seen a player like this.
And you're not going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, this is an anomaly. This is an anomaly.
Yeah. TD says he'll be the next Travis Hunter. I think you'll probably be lucky if you ever see a guy like this again.
Next year my kid could be kicking and punting. So he's going to be a two-way player.
Right.
But just kidding.
So the Cam Skattebo, Arizona State running back, he posted on social media over the weekend that nobody respects the fact that he's the best running back in the country. Should he have been a Heisman finalist himself, Vince?
No. He literally has 1,000 less yards than Genty does. 1,000 less yards. Look, kid's a good running back. He's a solid running back. He runs the ball hard. The kid is like a classic, like, I don't want to make this sound negative, but it's going to come out that way. He's like a meathead frat boy. And it's somebody that I would totally anticipate going to Arizona State. But he's good at what he does, but he's not a Heisman Trophy candidate. Like when he scored the touchdown in the championship game and he struck the Heisman pose, I literally leaned over to Brian. I was like, really? Like, come on, dude.
Right. I just, it's like cute. It's fun to watch,
right.
Big, heavy guy, kind of churning through. And it's like the guy is, like does not look overly athletic. He's helped Arizona State do what they've done this year, but he is not deserving of the Heisman. Go Irish, going back to the Hunters thing. He says if he was that good, they would have won their conference. Again, you're talking about MVP versus best player. I mean, there are a lot of great players who don't play on good teams because there are still 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense, and Travis Hunter, he can't make the offensive line any better. He can't make Colorado's pass rush any better. But when you look at what he did, just the 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns is a great season for any player.
Correct.
But then you flip it to the other side of the ball where he had 11 pass breakups and 4 interceptions this season.
Correct.
And played at an elite level on both sides.
Look, Ashton Genty was also playing against a group of 5 teams.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't playing in a Power 4 conference like Hunter was. There's a difference in look, you can say what you want to about the Big 12 and how they weren't a very good conference or whatever you want to say. And that's fine. You're entitled to that opinion. But the Big 12 is still better than the conference that Boise State plays in. So he was playing against better competition.
Right.
So how about that?
Right. So I'm checking here to see if there's any new stuff on the Bill Belichick, because there was originally a report that Belichick took the job at North Carolina today, but then it was like, not so fast, my friend. He is not so he is in talks with North Carolina, apparently. But yesterday he was on the Pat McAfee show. He did his weekly hit on the McAfee show, and he had this to say. He didn't want to be very specific. He did have a meeting with North Carolina's chancellor. He said, quote, "If I was in a college program, the college program would be a pipeline to the NFL for the players that had the ability to play in the NFL. It would be a professional program, training, nutrition, scheme, coaching, and techniques that would transfer to the NFL. It would be an NFL program, but not at the NFL level." What do you think about that?
I'm hoping that Bill Belichick still has Charlie Weiss on speed dial. That's what I think about.
To me, it sounds like what Charlie Weiss was preaching when he walked in the door.
That's
right?
exactly what I'm saying.
Part of the problem that Charlie Weiss had was there was too much focus on, hey, I'm going to get you to the NFL, as opposed to, hey, let's win football games.
Right. And it was all about, we're going to have the decided schematic advantage, like that whole thing. Right. And they didn't ever practice their backups. That was the problem. They didn't. He had good talent when he got there, and he took those guys and he did really good things with them, right? But he didn't develop anybody. That's the problem. And he went out and got real high-level recruits. That's great, but he didn't develop anybody. And so that's why it wasn't a good college football program. So, like, if Belichick comes in and they're really good for a couple of years, is it sustainable? Are you going to really treat it like an NFL program where you never hit and tackle and you never do certain things because you know that those guys in the NFL are doing those things outside and doing their own training and their own deal? Are you going to be able to do that in college? You can't really. Is it more? I'm going to push back against myself. In 2024, it's more of a professional setting than it was back in 2005 when Charlie Weiss was here 20 years ago. No doubt about that.
I mean, that's just the financial side of it.
Right. So is it more professional? Yes, but you still have to treat it like a college program. And I'm not saying Bill Belichick can't do it, but what he's saying there in that clip, that worries me.
Yeah, like Corey says, he thinks Belichick will do better than Charlie Weiss. I would think so too, because Belichick has been a head coach. Remember, Charlie Weiss was just a coordinator, and the fact that Charlie, didn't even play college football. I mean, he was obviously a great football mind and knew how to scheme and, like all those different things. But the fact that he had never been in a college program and that all of his experience was in the NFL were essentially like Belichick has a little bit, but most of his experience is in the NFL as well. And that's like the biggest difference, like, if you're going to come to college now at the age that Bill Belichick is, with as much experience as he has, are you going to surround yourself, like people have talked about, like, would Marcus Freeman have been better off if you had like a former head coach on the staff, as an, like all these different things? Well, at least Marcus Freeman had coached under some guys like Fickle and Brian Kelly.
And he'd always been at the college level.
Right. Who knew how to, who put the emphasis on the development, like it's a developmental, those are developmental programs. I think that is the biggest area that Belichick is going to have to, to solve in a really short amount of time, quite frankly, because of his age,
right?
Regardless of the coaching experience he has, there's still a huge difference when it comes to recruiting and, again, like the development and the turnaround and everything else that comes with being a college coach. Quite frankly, when this came out with North Carolina, I just kind of thought it was Belichick sort of trying to get his name out there to see like what kind of NFL interest, might, kind of come out of this, which could be part of the deal still too, since nothing is done. And this initial report came out, I think like close to 7 hours ago now.
Oh, wow.
At this point. But yeah, it was kind of a red flag when I saw like all the stuff about NFL.
Yeah.
Because
it's going to be an experiment. That's for sure. And, obviously he's going to dip into the transfer portal and he's going to do all these different things to get North Carolina back to where he wants them to be. But I think it's more, well, I can't even say it's more than 1 year because who knows what you can do, but I think it's going to be more difficult than he thinks it is.
I agree. I completely agree with that. All right. I was looking to see if there were any more. Yeah, kind of going back to, the Riley Leonard stuff. Brent was saying experts were predicting Leonard to be a top 10 pick his sophomore year. They were.
There was a lot of that buzz going around.
That big start. And that's, I think, why so much of our expectations this year were, at one level, but Leonard wasn't quite hitting it early on, and why he frustrated some people early on because of some of that stuff.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, all right, great stuff tonight. Appreciate everyone's input. As always, it's always fun when the chat gets going.
I know.
And, mixes it up.
This is where we've been, and this is what it's going to be, baby. Everybody just needs to get on board. Yeah. This is going to be a great month for Notre Dame football. It's going to be
already a great month, and it's trending in the right direction.
Yep.
Win on the 20th, play on New Year's Day.
Oh,
we all happy, baby. We all happy.
Go, baby.
Thank you, DJ. And, by the way, Joe Allen, I haven't even said, you remember a week or two ago, Joe Allen was asking about, does he ditch the in-law Christmas, after Christmas, or I guess that was before Christmas for the playoff game. And according to what I saw on the board, it looks like Joe Allen has got his playoff tickets for December 20th. So it sounds like he made a decision.
Oh man, that's ballsy. Ballsy.
Thank you very much, Tom. We appreciate it as always. TD4ND. DK says, is it time for rapid fire? DK was missing. He was MIA for a good chunk of the night, I think.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Again, appreciate you. As always, we'll be back tomorrow. We got a mailbag show comboed with a little whiteboard. Jesse is looking at his IU. He's bringing in some IU whiteboard on tomorrow's show. So if you've been missing the whiteboard,
should I share with him some film so he can actually, some coaches film?
I know he told me 3 games that I know he was going to look at Ohio, Indiana's Ohio State and Michigan, and there was one other he mentioned. I can't remember.
But he's got. See if he wants a little access.
Joe says, where did he go? I don't see the comment now. But Joe said the in-laws are not happy with him missing out on in-law Christmas for the playoff game.
Oh, actually,
it's Joe's birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, this is history, baby.
You're not
if
wrong.
your in-laws don't understand this, I mean, I'm on your side, Joe. I think we're all on Joe's side.
USMA 87 says he wants film of Jesse as a player. The Google machine works. I guarantee you there's huddle film out there of Jesse Stiers.
I know it's still out there.
I guarantee it. It doesn't
Jesse
go away.
plugging A gaps and B gaps out there.
But that may be an off-season show where we have to bring up his film and analyze it. I think we could have some fun with that.
That's right.
Because any film of me or you, that's long gone.
So. He would have been a great Army linebacker had he decided to make that decision. I think so.
I'm looking it up right now just to see what we can.
I'm pretty sure it's still floating around.
Oh no, it's there
someplace. Yeah.
No, it's definitely there. It is right there. Oh, the profile picture is lit.
Is it?
Oh my goodness!
Is that the one where he's drinking the water bottle?
No, that's against Ben.
Oh, where he's down and he's
yeah.
That was a good picture. That's one of my favorite action photos.
It's a great picture.
Yep. USMA Army has a good engineering program. Well, those days are gone now. I don't think the academy is in his future.
Yeah, so. I think we that ship has officially sailed.
Decaf wants to know how big Jesse was. Not big enough. There it is.
There it is. Look at that.
Right there.
Look at that animal.
That middle linebacker.
Oh, yeah. The big 2.5. Right there. Yeah. So it's there. It's there for your viewing pleasure, folks.
You go. All right. Well, have a good one. Hit that like button before you head out. And again, we'll be in tomorrow, and Jesse will have that whiteboard with him as well. We will talk to you then on IB Nation Sports Talk.